Hey Dragon Slayers! Before you listen to the Season 1 finale, I want to say thank you. My name is Gary. I had the idea for the Firebreaker show 2 years ago, and me and my team have been working hard on it ever since. We've had so much fun going on the journey with St. George, and to hear that you and your families are enjoying it as well has been really meaningful to us. Do me a favor. If you loved Firebreaker, please visit our website, firebreakerseries.com, and sign up for email updates. We have big plans for the world of Firebreaker and want to keep all our friends in the Resistance notified. Stay tuned, because soon we'll be releasing a behind-the-scenes Q&A episode. So if you have any burning questions for the Firebreaker creators, you can send them to us at firebreakerseries.com/contact. We'll be answering some questions on air and talking about what it took to bring the story of St. George to life. Last thing, please review and rate the podcast, share it with your friends, visit our web store. We have comics, posters, and t-shirts fit for any dragon fighter. And consider supporting us. We have so many more stories to tell. And with your support, we'd like to make Firebreaker Season 2 a reality. The dragons never rest, and so we can't either. Thanks everyone. Enjoy the show.
Coronation presents Firebreaker, The Legend of George and the Dragon, Chapter 11, The Flight of the Cappadocian.
But grandfather, you said George and Aya killed Kakos. I thought that was the end of the story.
My boy, vanquishing evil is an eternal endeavor.
Well, I guess I'd better start working out then, right?
Like a wounded hornet sending out a distress signal to the thousands in its hive, Kakos was able to communicate with other dragons, even those at a great distance. Back at the Roman camp, Lacertus the Centurion stood on the tower, surveying the preparations for his unit's departure.
You there! Look alive! We're behind schedule already!
Any news from the scouts? Have they found George or the boy?
No, sir. Nothing.
Well, perhaps we should have spared the old man's life after all.
Why's that, sir?
He might have provided some useful information. We have ways of making people talk, you know.
Right, sir.
Just then, Lacertus' tiny dragon slithered up his arm and whispered in his ear.
What? Silene? Are you sure?
Lacertus looked down into the courtyard at Gerard.
You there! Gerard!
Yes, sir!
Mobilize a search party and make for Silene at once!
Yes, sir!
Gerard frowned.
Silene. All right, George. You win.
Back in Silene, the first course of action was to bury those killed in Plisto's attack.
My people, let this site forever stand as a memorial to those who gave their lives that we might be free again.
Later, as the city was being rebuilt, George and the Silenians turned their attention to recovering their lost treasure from Kakos Lake.
Bring the gold to the town square!
Sir George, look! George, look!
A Silenian boy emerged from the lake, cradling a large gilded crucifix in his arms.
Very good. Let's return it to its rightful place.
That night, their gold, artwork, and treasures having been restored to them, the people lit bonfires, brought out food, and packed the town square. The air was filled with their songs of joy and thanksgiving. George and Demetrius surveyed the happy scene from the steps of the church.
Well, George, what do you think?
It's a beautiful sight, but I think I'm ready for a little nap.
You deserve it.
In the middle of the square, the people joined hands and danced around Kakos' huge body. Out of the shadows, a large group of hooded cultists approached. As they drew near, George's hand instinctively closed around Ascalon.
Good Sir George.
They all knelt down before him.
We have wronged our people, and we now humbly beg forgiveness.
George relaxed the grip on his spear. The repentant cultists looked different. They no longer wore masks to hide their scars. They approached him in honesty and truth.
My friends, your king has already forgiven you, as have all your brethren.
Yes, but nonetheless, what might we do as an act of reparation?
Zoe emerged from the center of the crowd. She pointed up toward the dragon statue at the church's entrance.
Look! There! That abomination you constructed! You must now destroy!
The repentant cultists approached the towering statue and with a mighty effort pulled it down. The hideous monument shattered on the church steps below. The cultists cast off their hooded robes.
Their scales are falling off.
I trust your countrymen shall recognize you as their true kin once again.
The cultists looked down at their hands and at each other's faces. The leader turned to the crowd. Just then, an ominous, familiar sound arose from the center of the square. The crowd turned in horror. The destruction of the dragon's statue had roused him. Kakos staggered to his feet and bellowed.
Come to me, my children. Fly to me, my dears. Bind them to their master. Chain them to their fields.
Kakos released a ball of dazzling, multicolored fire into the night sky. Suddenly, hundreds of tiny dragons appeared from the shadows of the city and began to attack the crowd.
For Silene!
For Silene!
The entire town rushed toward the dragons, crushing them underfoot, beating them back with anything they could find. George grabbed Ascalon and made his way through the chaos toward Kakos.
Demetrius! Behind you!
Demetrius was being swarmed by two tiny dragons. The boys swung a tiny knife at them, but their razor-sharp teeth snapped all around him. Suddenly, the familiar face of Timothy appeared. Timothy sprang forward, pushing Demetrius to the ground, and grabbed two dragons out of the air with his bare hands. Demetrius looked at him, stunned.
It's gone.
Thank you, my brother.
George made his way to the center of the square and came face to face with Kakos. The dragon smiled as his throat began to glow red.
We meet again, Cappadocian.
You know, I liked you better dead.
The dragon let loose another deadly blast of fire at George. Using Ascalon, he ran forward and vaulted over the blast and landed on Kakos' back. The dragon flapped his wings and rose up slowly into the air. From the heights, George could see the people of Silene surrounded with swarms of little dragons, fighting with all their might. Clinging to the dragon's neck, George rose higher and higher until he could see the whole city stretched before him. It looked so small.
My people, what have you done to me? Beneath my wings, salvation shall come to thee.
George tried to focus, to calm his mind, so that he could find the peace to pray again. But Kakos turned toward him. In the depths of the dragon's massive golden eye, George saw visions. Visions of armies, of glory and triumph. Visions of gold and jewels beyond count. Himself wearing a king's crown, and Aya at his side, his queen.
Draco mihi dux, my boy, and all this shall be thine. Serve me now, little boy, little king. king, the dragon thy lord, divine.
May the holy cross be my light. May the dragon never be my overlord.
George, with a flash of Ascalon's white light, sliced through the dragon's neck. Kakos' head fell to the ground. His wings flapped once more, and then, like a great star in the heavens being cast to the ground, Kakos fell from the sky. George held on for all his life as the dragon's body plummeted and came crashing down to the stones of the square. With their master now completely vanquished, the remaining dragons flew off into the night sky. As George jumped down from Kakos' back, Aya appeared out of the crowd. The two stared at each other for a moment.
You're getting pretty good at this.
George stared down at the ground. The princess came a step closer.
That is my name.
What? Oh, no. I'm stuck in a rut.
Their eyes met. Just then, a warm, gentle rain began to fall. As they watched the dragons disappearing into the sky, the rain grew stronger and stronger, washing everyone and everything in the city. The bells of the church rang, and Aya, carrying a great torch, set fire to Kakos' body, which burnt hot, even in the downpour. Kakos' bloated corpse burned down to embers. He was gone. The reign of the serpent was over. Within a few days, a new sentry stood on the walls of Silene, witnessing the arrival of another newcomer.
Hello, Roman. What do you want?
I'm a friend of George. I bring urgent news.
Sir George, you have a visitor.
Well, if it isn't George the Dragon Slayer.
Gerard!
Hey, Michael.
What are you doing out here?
I wish I was here to celebrate. But I'm afraid Lacertus isn't a big fan of your recent heroics.
What?
In the stable, George saddled Michael.
George, is it true? Are the Romans coming after you?
Yes.
You're leaving us?
I must. Silene won't be safe unless I lead the Romans far away.
Well, if you must, then let me come with you, please. I know these lands like the back of my hand.
Demetrius, your place is here with your people.
But they can take care of themselves now, thanks to you. Never have I felt so clear a call.
There's no telling the dangers we may face.
Please.
George and Demetrius, now joined by Gerard, met King Cosmo and all of Silene at the city gates.
My dear George, all Silene holds you in our debt. You have freed us from our faults and shown us the way to true peace. Please accept this small reward of the city's gold in gratitude.
Whoa.
My lord, thank you. But we need nothing more than the provisions your people have already given us so generously.
George handed Cosmo a handwritten letter. In it, he made 4 requests of the king. 1, that Cosmo should see to the repair and upkeep of the churches of Silene. 2, that he should seek the counsel of the wise, like George had honored his priest, Master Theodore. 3, that he should always remember the God of his people, that he might never fall prey to any other beast of evil. And finally, that he should have pity on the poor people of Silene and share the treasure with them. They had lost so much. Cosmo kept George's letter in his breast pocket until his death. He would never lose sight again. Zoe hugged Demetrius.
Come back to us, little brother.
I promise.
George, be careful out there.
I will. Rest assured that we will draw the Romans away, and Silene will be safe.
Princess Aya descended from the royal dais and approached George.
I don't know how to thank you, George. I wish I could.
Princess Aya.
George looked deep into her eyes. A tear streamed down her cheek. From behind her back, Aya brought something out and pressed it into George's hands.
Let this be your standard.
George looked down. There in his hands was a large, newly made flag, a red cross on a white field. George looked into her eyes.
I don't know what fate awaits me, Aya. I don't know if I will ever see you again. But I very much wish to. As God wills.
As God wills.
Pray for me.
I will. And you for me?
George and Aya embraced tenderly. Gerard whispered to Demetrius.
Looks like I've got some catching up to do.
Mm-hmm.
George swung up onto Michael's back with resolve.
Dearest Silenians, the Cappadocian bids you a fond farewell. Hold fast to the truth and know that I will pray for you, always.
And with that, George, Gerard, and Demetrius turned their horses and trotted out through the city gates.
But grandfather, the story didn't end there, did it?
No, indeed, my boy. George, with his two trusted companions, eluded the Romans. Together, they rid the surrounding regions of dragons completely. George's fame grew throughout the land. In time, the legend of George the Dragon Slayer reached Rome itself, and Rome's servants pursued him all the more.
Wait a minute, grandfather. You're skipping over all these adventures.
You seriously want me to tell you everything that happened to George?
Well, yes. But I suppose it is a little bit past my bedtime.
For tonight, I will leave you with this. George's adventures were an inspiration to countless souls, including that boy Demetrius. At the end of his days, George entrusted Ascalon to Demetrius, who carried on the mission of fighting dragons. And do you know something, boy? That Demetrius is me.
No way.
You figured out the plot twist?
Grandfather, I know that your name is Demetrius, and you've been holding Ascalon this entire time.
Well, you are wise indeed, young one. Well, George gave Ascalon to me, and now I give it to you. Are you ready to fight some dragons?
Oh, yeah.
You have been listening to Firebreaker, The Legend of George and the Dragon. Firebreaker is a Coronation Media production, starring David Henrie and Elizabeth Tabish. Directed by Jim Morlino. Written by Jim Morlino and Dominic Morlino. Original score by Kevin Casco, with sound design by Michael Moen. Executive producer, Bill Phillips. Executive producer and showrunner, Gary Gores. For a full cast and crew listing, please visit our website, firebreakerseries.com.